The Sodom, you need to slow it down a little bit, all right? So that's what I'm going to slow it down a little bit. But everything acts on vibrations. Everything. If you're trying to be intimate with your Isha and she's not receptive, that's called a disagreeable unit between the two parties here. Because this is how it gets very important. They call it now an umbilical cord, but we know this now as an ether cord. This is an ether cord. And what happens now is that when that baby is attached to the mother's umbilical cord, every single thing that's going on inside of that woman is going to be based upon how you treat her. When she's upset because whatever it is that you might have done to her is going to affect the baby. This ether line here is again, it's all about vibrations. And what's happening now is that you need to make sure who you're getting yourselves involved with, because being that men carry seed and women carry genetic material too. I'm not saying that women don't carry seed, all right? She also carries genetic material. But what's happening now is that if the wrong male goes into her, and this is the reason why I talked about this right here. If a man is disagreeable, okay, and he goes into a woman, when I say disagreeable now, where he has issues, where he has syphilis, gonorrhea, and all these other things now, this can cause a problem for the woman here, okay, because, it can cause an issue with the sister here, and she can bring forth a child that's ill, all right? Let me speed this up here a little bit now. Verse 13, let me see, verse 12. And they were married unto the families of the sons of Manasseh, the son of Jehoshaphat, and their inheritance remained in the tribe of the family of their fathers. Verse 13. These are the commandments and the judgments which Yahuwah commanded by the hand of Moshe unto the children of Yashra'al in the plains of Moab by Jordan. All right. So if there's any questions now, we can go back over that a little bit later. Now I just want to finish it up right quick with the book of Genesis, the book of Bereshit, the 38th chapter. All right. An hour and 15 minutes. That's going to be tops. Anything after that, we can do a part 2. All right. I just want to always make sure that there's no misunderstandings. I'm big on that. All right. 38.
You said Genesis 35th chapter?
38. Bereshit, 38th chapter. All right. 38 to 1. I'm going to have to go a little fast here, all right? And it came to pass at that time that Judah went down from his brethren and turned into a certain Adulamite whose name was Harah. I'm going to go ahead and let the cat out of the bag. What's happening now is that the first thing that you see here now is that it says that Judah left his brethren, all right? So he left the body, and he now is dealing with a person, this guy who's an Adulamite, whose name was Harah. And this Adulamite now is going to take Judah on a journey. Now, when he leaves his brothers now, he meets a daughter, a certain Canaanite, and he goes into her, and she conceives seed, and she bears him 3 sons. Now, the instructions was given to us in the book of Deuteronomy, or the book of Devarim, the 7th chapter. It made a list of not to marry the Hittites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, and all these nations here. All right. So again, genetics and genes is going to be very important, because the scriptures tells us now not to make any covenants with these people. If you notice now, everybody else seems to be given an opportunity to come into covenant relationship with the Father, but he made specific instructions not to make any covenants with these people. Don't give your sons to their daughters, and vice versa. Don't do that. All right, so it's very important that we understand what's going on with that. And then brothers might say, well, listen, how did Ruth get into the picture? Because it says that now a Moabite is not supposed to enter into the congregation of Yahuwah. But again, let's speed things up here a little bit. But when you trace the line, the Moabite line now, is that Ruth was actually the 10th generation. So this now allowed her now to have this relationship with Boaz now giving the Moabites the opportunity now to come back into covenant relationship with the Father. Okay, because remember the curse that was put on the Moabites. All right. All right. So we see now that these commercials, man, geez, these commercials just pop-ups. And she conceived again and bare the son. She called his name Onan, and she yet conceived and bare another son that called his name. Okay, got it. Shelah, and he was at Shezeb, and she bare him. And Judah took a wife for his firstborn, whose name was Tamar. All right. People say that Tamar was a Canaanite. That can be easily argued. I don't believe that she was a Canaanite based upon the name. The word Tamar is not a Canaanite name. It's actually a Hebrew name, and the word Tamar actually means palm tree. The same name that is given to Deborah. Now, that's another topic. But again, verse 7. And Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of Yahuwah, and Yahuwah slew him. Verse 8. And Judah said unto Onan, go up into thy brother's wife and marry. That word marry there is a Hebrew word. Yabam is not kerushim. Okay, it's not kerushim here. This word here is actually now Yabam. This word Yabam takes you back to this word, the Levirate marriage. So what Onan is actually doing under the advice of his father is now to do this Levirate marriage. And Onan knew that the seed should not be his. So quickly, okay, I know you know what it is. Why did Onan pull out?
Because he didn't want to continue that line for his brother.
Exactly. He didn't want to continue the line for his brother. And also, too, now, because if he didn't continue the line for his brother now, this means now is that the second-born now gets a double portion of the blessing, all right? Because the firstborn had died, and if that line continues now is that he just gets a bigger lot of inheritance or jewels or whatever it is that Judah would have left him. So we have a situation now through lust. Now he pulls out. Okay, he doesn't go into the woman. He just goes through this whole thing with lust. And if there's no seed now, again, he gets a double portion. And Onan knew that the seed would not be his. And it came to pass when he went in unto his brother's wife that he spilled his seed on the ground, lest that he should give seed to his brother. And the thing which he did displeased Yahuwah, wherefore he slew him also. Then said Yahuwah to Tamar his daughter-in-law, remain a widow at thy father's house till Shelah my son be grown. I'm gonna just do a recap here now, because I think you all know the story. So we have a situation now where Judah now tells Tamar that she needs to go back to her father's house. Now, if she goes back to her father's house, now she's now under her father's covering. Now, that wasn't supposed to happen. She was still supposed to have been under Judah's covering. Because remember, we talked about the law of marriage with Ruth, Naomi, and Boaz. Where the marriage happens now is that the Isha now is now under your covering. If anything was to happen to you now, she still stays now with your side of the family, because now this law has to take place somehow if she wants to continue. All right? So then we had the situation where, of course, Judah, not knowing exactly what's going on, listen, my two sons died now. If I give my last son to him, you know what? I don't know what's going to happen here. So now, Tamar, she understands this Levirate law. All right? She doesn't want to be poor. She wants to continue, and she has the right to inherit an inheritance. And so what happens now is that she plays like she's a harlot. And what's interesting about this whole situation here is that she now goes into the father. Okay, she goes into the father. In certain cultures, especially with the Moabite, the Chinese culture, when you see what was happening with Lot and his daughters, remember how they thought that everybody had died? And they actually went into their father, but they didn't go into their father through lust. What they were actually doing now is that they went under what we call a Levirate law, where in order to continue. I'm not condoning that, all right? That's not Hebrew law, okay? You don't do that. But in this particular situation here, that incest that was done, where they going into their fathers now, they were practicing another form of Levirate law of marriage here. So again, just to speed things up again a little bit, because what I got, about 5 minutes? 7 minutes, okay. We have a situation now where, to show how this wasn't a lust zone, just like my sister brought out here before, this wasn't a zone of lust. What happened now was that Tamar asked for some gifts of authority. These were not regular gifts that she asked for. She asked for the staff of Judah. You go to the book of Genesis, the 49th chapter, I believe the 15th verse, it says that the scepter should not depart from Judah until Shiloh comes, which means the Messiah. Okay? Then she asked for the ring. The ring is also a symbol of authority. Remember when Joseph was in the house of Egypt? Okay, and remember now, because of his fame and his wealth, he's able to break down the parables of the 7 fat calves and then the 7 lean calves. And he gave them the signet ring. And Joseph now was only second in command to the Pharaoh. So the signet ring meant authority. So she now has this the staff, and she has the staff, and she has the ring, and she got something else too. But all of these now, yeah, she got and these bracelets here. So all of these things now was signs of authority, and so but Judah had at first told her that he would give her a lamb, which is another thing with prophetic shadow pictures. Now, when he said that he would give her a lamb, all right, that lamb is actually making a reference to Yashra'al HaMashiach. And the way that we know that was referring to Yashra'al HaMashiach, because we know that there's a Judite line, but even with inside of the Judite line, there's a special line coming even out of that line, which is called the David line. And when we see now when there was conception between Judah, okay, and Tamar here, she had 2 sons. All right, there was a wrestling inside of the belly of the woman, just like there was a wrestling now with Esau and Jacob. Because remember now, the first baby came out, he had his hand out of the womb, and the birthing mothers was like, well, what's going on? What's happening here? And so now she ties a ribbon around the baby's hand, and the baby pulls his hand back into the womb, and then Perez comes out. And then when you go to the book of Matthew, the first chapter, we see now that Tamar and Perez now is listed in the David bloodline coming in and bringing up the Messiah. And so now when Judah now he sends the same guy that he's been messing with these Canaanite women here, he brings the lamb. But he was not able to give the lamb to Tamar because he wasn't able to give the lamb to Tamar because he couldn't find the whore. And the man said, listen, there's no whores in this town here. But again, just to show bloodline, and just to show that every single thing means something in Scripture. When it says now about the lamb, Judah is going to bring a lamb. Looking at bloodline, looking at Perez, looking at Luke the 3rd chapter, this is all talking about the Messiah. All about the Messiah here, all right? And that's going to be about it, all right? I'm sorry I had to do a quick version of this. I just wanted to make sure that we got like what's going on here, just like my brother had brought out last week. Now, what would happen if the brother wasn't in the walk and such and everything like that? We're not supposed to marry outside of the tribes. If you're a Judite, you're supposed to marry a Judite woman. If you're a Levite, you're supposed to marry a Levite woman. And the reason why, because you don't want the inheritance now going from tribe to tribe. If I'm a Judite and my Isha now is a tribe of Asher, all right, and her father left her an inheritance, being that I'm a Judite and I married her, she's now under my covering, I'm now owner of that inheritance of land. But the Scripture says, listen, you know what, you're not supposed to do that. Everybody keeps his land. And so I can only marry a Judite. These are the laws that the Father told us from the very beginning. All right, now, there's a movie that I want people to watch, all right? This movie is heavy. It's super heavy, all right? It's called The Mother of George. Anybody see that movie yet? You have? Somebody? Oh, you seen it? Good movie, wasn't it? Yeah. The Mother of George is very powerful. Very powerful movie, The Mother of George.
You have to go rent it?
You can get it on Netflix.
Netflix? Oh, good.
Yeah, The Mother of George. Now, I don't agree with the tactics that she used, okay? But she used what we call the Levirate law of marriage, because seed is very, very important. If there's no seed, it can't continue, and the nation of Yashra'al will cease to be a nation. All right? So, that's about it. Anybody have any questions or anything like that? You know.
So we look at the, I guess it's Nehemiah, Ezra, when Most High made them put away these children
Yes.
that they had from these different women.
Right, exactly. Because they couldn't even speak the Hebrew. I mean, they were
Right.
because what happens is that usually, you know, with the whole thing, you start to now take on the customs of the other nations and things like that. But to keep the bloodline pure, to keep everything in sync, because it tells us in the book of Yakaskriel, I believe it's the 44th chapter where it talks about even in the during the 1,000-year millennium reign of the Messiah, where that Israel, is going to be allotted their own land all over again. They're going to be allotted their lands back again, and there will be no Benjamites marrying Levites and Levites marrying Ephraim, you're going to have to keep this within lineage here.
Everybody get their own heads where they started from.
Yeah, I mean, the original plan is to be put back into order, because the way that they do it here in Western society, once there's like a divorce, if people break up and they want to get back together again, and so they kind of like reconstruct the marriage rules, but not in Scripture, not in Hebrew marriage. The same law, statutes, commandment that was implemented at Mount Sinai, they're going to be re-implemented again. So there's no way of getting around this here. The Father is not coming to bargain with us, all right? We must make sure that we follow the laws, statutes, and commandments. And that's basically the whole thing with Levirate marriage. There's a whole lot more information on it, but that's just a little glimpse of it.
Brother Cassava, where's that A, that sideways A at on here?
Oh,
By the, not here, I don't see it.
it's not. Actually, this is the ancient Hebrew here.
Oh.
What you have here is the block. This is called classical, actually. This is called what they call the modern Hebrew. Right.
Okay,
So
okay.
that would be on that website, right?
Right. Okay, let's get it. Okay, Mr. McCall, that's going to be about it. All right. We're going to close the show, but we can continue on with the questions. All right.